Hey, News Taco people. I've been thinking a lot recently about how Latinos are changing the politics in the Deep South, with more Latinos going into states that traditionally didn't have Latinos, like Georgia specifically, Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi. The thing that's happening that we're not really paying too much attention to is that there's this sea change of politics. We've written about it here and there, but I don't think we understand how imminent it really is, and what the implications are for wider national politics, and specifically for the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act was enacted back in the mid-60s, and it stands firm, but there are some parts of the Voting Rights Act that are that can be changed or altered, that need to be reauthorized every so often. And one of those is Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. And I know this is getting a little wonkish, a little getting into the weeds, but follow me on this. Section 5 is also called the preclearance section. And what that means is that those states that are covered under this Section 5, and those are specifically the states that we're talking about, the states in the Deep South, those states need to pre-clear. They need to ask permission, in other words, to the Justice Department or to the federal court in Washington, D.C., whenever they have a change in voting. And that means if they change a voting place, if they change the hours of voting, or if they change a district in some way. All of these things have to be pre-cleared just to make sure that there aren't any shenanigans going on, because there used to be shenanigans going on in those states that would limit the voting power of blacks. Well, now those can be applied to Latinos, because Latinos are growing in population. For instance, about 26% of the population in Georgia, of the Latino population in Georgia, is eligible to vote, and that's expected to grow and to be on par with the rest of the country. So the voting rights of Latinos in those states need to be protected, and that's where Section 5 comes in. One of the political fronts that a lot of people that want to restrict the emergence of Latino politics are using is precisely preclearance, because individual municipalities, individual jurisdictions within a state can ask to be exempted from Section 5. They can go to the Supreme Court, or they can go to the Justice Department, and they can say, look, we don't need Section 5 anymore because we have already addressed all those issues, and there are no voting problems or irregularities. There are no populations whose voting rights are being restricted, so do away with it. We don't want preclearance anymore. And that's a way to get around the idea of preclearance and eliminate it, not get around it, eliminate it, and therefore be able to do what they can to maintain the status quo in the South, in the Deep South, which is exactly what they're trying to do. Because of the growth of Latino voters, this is going to become the new front. Along with things like the immigration issues, voting rights, I think, is the next big front. And we're going to see it coming to light a lot in the South and in the Deep South, in places where there weren't a lot of Latinos before and where they're now. So they're kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do with us. And one of the things that they want to do first, and their first front, is to try and stifle our voting rights. So look for those things. Look for the next 10 to 20 years for an increase in Latino population in those states, but specifically an increase in voting power in those states, and with it, attacks on redistricting. And redistricting is going to have major effects this year and 10 years from now as to how Latino politics is going to emerge. We are seeing opposition to Latino majority districts anywhere from Texas to Yakima, Washington, where there's a lawsuit going on right now where the districts are being drawn in such a way that dilute Latino voting power. Here in Texas, we know that they want to give us one district when Latinos have been the cause of the vast majority of the growth in population and of voting population in this state. Maldev says we need 5 in Texas, and the Texas legislature, the committee that's in charge of redistricting, is saying, now you're going to get 1. So that's happening in Texas. And like I said, it's happening across the country, the Southwest, all the way to Yakima, Washington. And the next front is going to be in the Deep South, in Georgia specifically. It's going to be in places like Alabama, in places like Arkansas, in places like Mississippi, Missouri. look for that to come. And just a heads up, and just something that I've been thinking about, because I think it's important, and I think we need to be talking about it more. And of course, in News Taco, we're going to be talking about that and everything else that we talk about in News Taco. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for being a part of the News Taco familia. We really appreciate you guys, and we're really excited about what we're doing and where we're going. So hang with us. And we're trying our best, and I think we're doing a good job thanks to you. And keep those tips coming. You guys are awesome. You're letting us know about a lot of things that are happening out there. So anyway, have a good lunch or whatever it is you're doing. Nos vemos. Que pasen buen día.